Hell yeah! Welcome to the Gambling Legionnaire. So, my idea for this character was to go with full strength stacking and make a character that has a massive two-handed weapon in one hand and a shield and goes full tank mode. So, in order to do that, I would go Giant's Blood so we can wield two-handed axes, maces, and swords in one hand, but the attribute requirements double. So in early access, I would probably just grab a two-handed mace that has a high strength requirement, and thanks to adaptive capability, attribute requirements of gems can be satisfied with your highest attribute. So if you have a high amount of strength, we can basically equip any form of gem. I would also go with glancing blows, so we double our block chance, but block no longer mitigates all damage, only half of it. But it means we don't need to invest heavily into block nodes, maybe into just one block cluster to get max block, and then we have 75% block chance. And yeah, at 75% chance to mitigate 50% damage, that's pretty cool. Also, we have the gemling passive, so our gems get more quality. We haven't seen what quality does to most gems yet, so there's a lot of content that's still not revealed and hidden. Actually, a ton of content, to be honest. It would be very interesting to see what all of these quality bonuses do to certain gems. Then we get 3 additional skill slots for more abilities that we can use. That gives us more versatility. And we get this passive here, so for every 3 gems of a color we get +1 to maximum resist. And then I would pick Unnatural Resilience to even help out even more with max fire resistance by second fire res. Heat Proving will transform some of our armor into fire damage reduction, so we would probably be super fire proven with this character. Then Iron Reflexes is not necessarily a must-have, but if we happen to have, let's say, some really good, I don't know, unique chest piece, but it also has evasion on it, and I would pick Iron Reflexes to convert that stat into more armor to get more damage reduction and more fire damage reduction from armor. And I would also go with Resolute Technique, since we are mostly moving around in the upper left corner of the skill tree, and I think there are not that many crit nodes over there. So it would probably be wise to go with Resolute Technique on a hammer build, so our hits can't be evaded, we never deal crits. Now, let's talk Pyro Voyage with Pyromantic Pact. So, I didn't really prepare any offensive concept for this idea. I was just focusing on the defensive side of it and what you could theoretically do with it. When it comes to offense, you can probably play some crazy direct fire damage build or some nice ignite build with that, or any other crazy thing, but I was focusing more on the defensive part. So with Pyromantic Pact, basically your mana gets replaced with this new Infernal Flame source. So your globe turns from blue to red, it's empty, and when you cast spells it fills, and once it's full, it deals damage to you. And the damage is your max life plus your energy shield as fire damage. Yeah, as I said, when you reach maximum resource. And yeah, you lose Infernal Flame when you, so when you reach the maximum, you lose all of it, and then you start at the bottom again, and then you fill it. And if you don't cast stuff for a few seconds, then you start degenerating that. So that means if you don't have energy shield, the damage that you take will be lower. If you have energy shield and you cast too much, you will hurt yourself with the fire damage, you will lose energy shield, and if you cast too fast, you will never start recharging energy shield, so that could be an issue. So maybe getting rid of energy shield could be a good idea. You take less damage, so Eldritch Battery could get rid of energy shield if it stays the way it currently is. And it would add that energy shield to your mana, and maybe that amount of max mana is then converted to Infernal Flame, so that could mean that your maximum Infernal Flame will be higher, and it will take longer for you to reach the maximum, which in the end means it will take longer for yourself to burn yourself with your own spells. If that works, that would be really cool. I also had a look at this Cloak of Flame. It's a low-level chest piece item, but it gives us maximum fire resistance, which is good if you wanna reduce this this incoming fire damage that we get here. And it also converts incoming physical damage to fire damage, so our fire resistance also reduces the physical damage that we get, not only the fire damage. So if enemies attack us, that will help too. And cut this off a little bit, so this is 2%. There's this node, which is quite far away from Eldritch Battery, by the way, so I don't know if that's gonna be a possible thing to do. But you get 2% max fire res for each 40 uncapped fire res. So if you have 40 fire res, your maximum fire resistance of 75 should become 77, and so on and so on. So after like 300 or so fire res, you should reach the cap of 90 or so. That means you can reduce the incoming fire damage by almost everything that you... yeah, it's only a small fraction that hits you. And if you have your mana, your energy shield converted to mana, and your pool is bigger, and you will burn yourself almost never, or like only after so many spells. So basically the amount of incoming burning damage is almost not there anymore. Also, 90% fire res means that the physical part also gets massively reduced, and that makes you even tankier. Now, then we have the Loyal Hellhound. So you basically summon a doggo, and as long as the burning doggo is out, he takes 20% of your incoming hit damage. So I guess it doesn't count towards dots and like damage over time stuff that's on the ground, like fire fields, like poison fields or stuff like that. I think it's hits only, but he takes a little bit of your incoming damage. If this thing is permanent and doesn't die, it's probably cool, but I guess the doggo can die, and then you need to resummon him, or he gets actively resummoned. I have no idea, but if this thing is really stupid and weak and it rushes into your enemies and gets killed in 1 or 2 hits, then it's pretty much useless. If, however, you can somewhat control it and keep it in the backline, not make it rush into your enemies immediately, I mean, you can socket defensive support gems to your minions with extra life, less damage, with increased resistances and stuff like that. So if you can get this doggo to a decently tanky level without investing points into minion nodes, then the doggo could help you with your survivability as well. Then, also at the same corner as unnatural resistance, there is seed proving. So 25% of your armor also applies to fire damage taken from hits. I don't know if taken from hits includes burning yourself with your pyromantic pact mechanic, but it could at least help, like, incoming fire damage to be even more negated. And it's probably pretty hard to stack a decent amount of armor without a massive armor chest piece, but you could get a somewhat decent amount. So 40% of your physical damage gets absorbed by fire res, and what's left of that then gets absorbed by a little bit of your armor. Although I don't know which one of these comes first, and I don't know if armor penetration mechanics are the same as in PoE 1. If they are the same, then a smaller hit will penetrate less armor, so your armor stat would be a little bit more effective if fire resistance, fire damage reduction comes first here. So this one could help reduce incoming fire damage and of course physical damage if you have some armor, and maybe it can even reduce this incoming damage from yourself. And I also have Mind Over Matter on the list, so I'm sure that Mom doesn't really work because it says all damage taken from mana, so it interacts with the entity mana and not with the entity Infernal Flame. So maybe it's gonna work, though if it does, it would be super broken because you would fill the orb and incoming damage would empty it, which I don't know. I think it will be too easy and too strong, so I think we can cut this one off the list. Eldritch Battery could work, not sure about this, but if it works, it would be really nice. Otherwise, it falls a bit apart. And well, if you don't need to take this, you can focus completely on the left bottom side of the tree. And yeah, you could make this build decently tanky with that, and then come up with some cool offensive idea. It's Chronohammer time, ladies and gentlemen. I Chronomancer build using a two-handed hammer to drop Hammer of the Gods to kill bosses. Because it's probably not that great for farming and mapping, but you will probably use an ability to kill the trash mobs and then weaken the elite mobs with that ability and then finish them off with a hammer. So the basic idea that I had was using something to fill the boss's stun meter, and then shortly before you stun the boss, you swap to Magma Barrier, block a few attacks to generate endurance charges. There's also a support ability that increases the chance for more charges. And we want to get to 3 endurance charges, which is probably the maximum, the base maximum in the game. And then we want to use Seismic Cry. So if we use Seismic Cry against a stunned opponent, it says here like heavy stunned enemy is hit, your next slam does an additional aftershock, and Hammer of the Gods is a slam ability. It also says that like it buffs 1 melee slam attack and it buffs additional attacks per endurance charge, so we will have 3, that's 4 in total. And it also says something about ignoring enemy damage reduction. I don't know if that goes for the slam or for the base damage that Cry ability has. I'm not quite sure. But apparently you need to like get the boss to a point where you need 1 more hit to stun it, use Magma Barrier to build charges, then stun the boss, then use Seismic Cry. There is also this Empowered Support Gem. It adds 15% bonus damage to buff abilities. I don't know if it works on Seismic Cry or not. If it does, it would be cool. Then we have Hammer of the Gods, obviously. We use this support gem that adds way more damage, but also a flat cooldown, plus 8 cooldown to the 24 that we already have. And this support gem adds percentage more cooldown, but gives it a second use, so we can drop 2 hammers. And then we have stuff like Brutality for more damage and concentrated effect for more damage and less area. We get a ton of extra damage out of Hammer of the Gods with like 1.3k bonus base damage, so that's really a ton of damage. We have Time Snap to reset the cooldown of Hammer of the Gods, so we can drop it another 2 times. So basically, get the boss to a point where they're easily stunned, use the barrier to generate charges, stun the boss, pop Seismic Cry, drop 2 hammers, use Time Snap, use another 2 hammers. If the boss unstuns too quickly, maybe we need to weave in Time Freeze. I have no idea if this is gonna work on bosses the same way it works on normal enemies, namely that it just freezes them in place. No idea, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. But yeah, it's the idea that you basically can really quickly kill bosses with this super hard hitting ability on a sorcerer.